Good morning and welcome to another episode of Work That Matters, the wonderful new podcast featuring Leslie Israel. For the first two episodes, Leslie set the table for this third show with some background information about herself, including family, but especially about her career and her achievements over the years. Now, with this landmark third episode, we're going to make the move into some more current events, because there have been some very important things going on, in case you folks out there haven't noticed, and I'm being facetious, of course. I'm sure you've all noticed, as everybody else has. But we have Leslie Israel on the line right now, joining us from beautiful Easton, Maryland. How's the weather out there today, Leslie?
Absolutely gorgeous. Warm, but not too hot yet.
Good.
It will be, but not yet.
That's how it was here a few hours ago, but right now it's sunny and very hot here in New York, and getting hotter. But maybe we can cool these high temperatures with Leslie Israel's level-headed, experienced approach to government, policy, social and political issues, and more. And there's a lot to talk about, so let's jump right in. Recently, Leslie, the Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade, much to a lot of people's surprise. So were you shocked by it? Tell me about this.
Totally shocked. I mean, I've never had an abortion, but I've had 3 early miscarriages. But and I was sad because I wanted the babies, but they had no names or faces or personalities. I remember no details. I lost an adult son, and that's still very clear.
Yeah,
but those were, the miscarriages were, they were.
Yeah. Well, lots of people are saying that the Supreme Court has turned into a right-wing activist group at this point.
I agree.
Do you think that's accurate? Or do you think that's overstating it at all?
Well, I think at this point, yeah, if they do something like that, they overturn a rule, a law that's been in place for half a century. Now, there are laws that have been overturned that were a good idea, like slavery, but right. This one was no.
Now, a popular talking point the last few weeks is that Roe v. Wade was bad law to begin with, or bad constitutional law. Do you think there's any merit to that claim?
No.
Okay.
Women have a right to control of their own bodies.
Now, if Roe can be considered by some as bad law, quote unquote, what else could be called that, and where does it end? Should people be worried about the loss of other freedoms?
I'm not sure which one. If you could suggest something, I might answer it specifically.
Well, I guess what a lot of...
I would like there to be, there are freedoms I would want to have, but I'm not sure which ones you're talking about.
Well, I guess the ones that they're talking about on, in the news a lot is things to do with LGBTQ plus rights and things of that nature.
Yeah, I mean, I care who Fred sleeps with, my husband. But beyond that, to somebody else, it's their choice.
Right.
You're wired in a particular way. It's not something you debate about and choose. It's what happens, right. The way you feel.
This podcast, Work That Matters, it's relatively new, only a few months old now, but it's already being seen as kind of a beacon of hope and direction for young women in the country, particularly those involved in politics and government, following in your path. As a champion for women in general, how much of a setback do you think this Roe situation is? And feel free to be brutally honest if you'd like, and elaborate.
I think it's enormous. It gives us, as I say, when I had miscarriages, and they were sad, but they were not real babies. They had no names, no faces, no personalities. And the same, I've never had an abortion, but it would be the same thing with an abortion. When I lost a living son, it was tragic.
Yeah.
But these are not real babies yet.
Let me ask you a question. Do you feel comfortable telling the story of the loss of your son on the show?
Oh, sure.
Okay. I'm curious, and I'm sure the audience is too. Let's hear it.
Well, Hal had been ADHD growing up, and he had, he'd used some drugs. He said, I didn't later told me I didn't get them to get high. Maybe, Mom, I was trying to quiet noises in my head. But he had a very successful life. He graduated from Georgetown and from Yale Law School, and was practicing, got a clerkship with the Chief Justice of Arizona. And his morning routine was to work out in his own gym, sit in the hot tub, and be in his office by 8:30. And one morning he didn't come into work, and his wife was in Florida visiting her parents. She was pregnant with her second child, and she wanted to go while she could still travel. So fortunately, she didn't discover him. When he didn't come into work, his secretary called and finally went out. He had worked out, wanted to sit in the hot tub, and apparently had a seizure in the hot tub and drowned. The comfort is that it was painless. It was in the hot tub. If you don't anything, all he had to do was just lift his head.
Right.
So it was very tragic.
Yeah, that is. I'm very sorry for your loss. And how long ago was that?
10 years maybe.
10 years ago. Okay. Well, that's I'm sure difficult beyond words.
It was very difficult.
Yeah. Well, that's it's interesting to put that perspective into this Roe v. Wade conversation, because, like you said yourself a couple of times already, the miscarriages you had, they were nameless, faceless. They weren't. They weren't like your grown son with his own, child, one on the way, family, established career, and so forth. Different situation.
And the comfort, at least, was that he was everything he wanted to be.
Right.
After having had a rough growing up, but he's gone.
Yeah. And how about that baby that was on the way? Who did that turn out to be?
He's adorable. Ryan is darling, and his house widow and children stay very close to us.
Sure.
After he died, they moved back to Florida, which is where her family was.
Right.
She didn't have any particular roots in Arizona. But they stay close to us. We see them, we're in touch with them.
Okay. That's very good. Well, as a former campaign manager and political consultant, do you feel that the Roe v. Wade issue will be better campaigning material for Democrats or for Republicans? And explain, please.
Well, I feel strongly for Democrats. A woman should have control over her own body. Of course, the big example out there is a 10-year-old who was raped and got pregnant.
Right.
Should they have forced a 10-year-old child, a 10-year-old girl to have a baby who was from rape? No!
And what generally would you say is the Republican angle on all of this?
Well, at least they say, those who believe in it, say it's quote-unquote right to life.
Mm-hmm.
But whose life?
Right.
The child who is not yet a person, or the mother who is and will never be the same.
Now, do you think there's an underlying hypocrisy there, because Republicans, they're pro-life, but at the same time, look at what's happening in schools with school shootings and the children there, like Uvalde and so forth?
Yeah. Oh, God, yes. Those are real children. That's a very different situation from an early abortion.
So would you say that Republicans, well, let me ask you this, because I'm sure you know a lot of people, but do you think that they talk a big game, but maybe don't feel exactly that way behind closed doors sometimes?
Well, I don't see them behind closed doors.
Right.
But I would expect some of them might.
Yeah. And the Republicans that you've known in your life, do you find them to be relatively decent people?
Oh yeah, my parents were Republicans.
Yeah,
it was a very different party in those days. We're Eisenhower Republicans, but they were perfectly decent people who believed in individuals and their individual rights.
Right. And then, of course, we touched on that in the last episode. And then, of course, to go a little bit further with it, would you say Reagan changed the party?
I don't know who changed the party. Reagan certainly had an impact on it. It wasn't my party. I've been deeply involved in politics, but on the other side of the fence.
Right.
I think he changed it, but others have as well. And there are people who believe one thing and people who believe another. And I believe what I believe.
So would you say that Donald Trump in recent years kind of radicalized the party?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Now, Democrat politicians have said historically that abortion should be, and I quote, safe, legal, and rare. Do you think that this is still the prevailing philosophy amongst Democrats, or have the expectations changed in recent years?
Oh, no, I think people believe it should be safe and legal when there's a reason for it. And there may, a victim, whether it's a victim of rape or incest, or the health of the mother is in danger, or the life of the mother overall is, I have 7 children, I can't have another,
So maybe you could set the record straight on a lot of this stuff, because there are a lot of Republicans out there right now, and I don't know if they're just doing it to campaign or preparing for the midterms or what, but a lot of them are saying that Democrats they're not only on board for late term, essentially up to the minute of birth abortion, but also even infanticide right after birth.
No, I'm not for infanticide.
No, of course
I'm not for an abortion in your 8th month when this is a living child. An abortion in your 1st, 2nd, or 3rd month, or maybe even the 4th, when this couldn't be a living human being yet.
Yeah.
It's not a child.
So do you think that Republicans kind of twist the talking points a little bit?
Probably. They believe what they believe. I don't know. I'm not inside their heads.
Yeah, of course. But you've been in the political machine for such a long time. You have a very interesting insight. Most people, they just, myself included, really just watch this stuff on TV. You read about it in the newspapers and so forth. But there are few people that have been inside of it to the degree that you have. So it's interesting to get that perspective, if you will. But you're a woman of faith. What sort of approach does Judaism take when it comes to abortion, and how does that compare with other religions like Christianity and such?
Well, of course, Christianity is a very broad word. There are a lot of differences within it as to who believes what. We believe that abortion for a reason is legitimate. We don't think you should just say, I'm not in the mood right now. Mm-hmm. But that's not a good enough reason. Right. But that if there's a reason to do it, you should do it.
Right. Well said. Now, the Roe decision is one of several that came down like a hammer in the past month, with many more people feel are likely to come. You're an expert in matters of democracy, having helped implement, promote, maintain it all over the world. So tell me, do you think that expanding the court is the answer? Because there has been some talk of it.
I'm not sure. I keep getting emails about that. I'm quite unsure. The Supreme Court is what it is. It's not what I approve of right now because a substantial number of the justices were appointed by a president whose points of view are different from mine.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure we should should you expand the court because of one decision that we all disagree with, or should we pass laws and, and gradually get a new Supreme Court?
Well, what advice do you have for young women in Republican states, in red states, where women's reproductive rights are changing now every day?
Well, if she has a legitimate reason, I can think of any reason for wanting an abortion. And I can think of a lot of legitimate reasons for wanting it. They go far beyond rape and incest. I can't have a child. I can't afford a child. Health is, those are legitimate reasons not to finish a pregnancy. As I said, I never had an abortion, but I had miscarriages, and they were never real babies.
Now they're saying that young women are going to have to travel across state lines, and now certain states are going to track that, and
I think that's terrible. Nobody's damn business but your own. It's not murder. These are not living, breathing human beings. You shouldn't have an abortion in 8 months.
Right.
When it is a living human being.
Right.
But an early abortion is legit.
And a lot of this stuff is being called un-American. Many of these things, these changes that are being made right now.
I think they are un-American. We have a lot of individual rights. They're not, there are limits to them. I can't wake up in the morning and say, look at my husband and say, you're a son of a bitch yesterday, clunk.
No, we can't do that in life. No matter how tempting it is some days, I'm sure, right?
It's not right. He's a good guy.
I know. Well, I think in the next episode, we're actually going to talk about him a little bit, because we're going to focus on family, and he's central to that, of course, and I'm sure that there's a great story behind Fred as well, and you'll have that opportunity to tell it the next time people tune in and check out that episode. So.
Oh, he's a wonderful man.
You've spoken highly of Fred for as long as I've known you, and you've got a whole bunch of family stories and interesting things that I'm sure that you'll be able to share the next time, and we'll come up with some great questions for that as well. But that about wraps this one up for now, and it's been really a wonderful opportunity to hear what you have to say about this. It was enlightening, and it's just a really good perspective, down to earth, level-headed, which I think the more of that there is nowadays, the better, because these are times where sparks are flying in every direction, so to speak. So it's good to kind of simmer things down and cool the temperatures, and but still be strong and direct about what freedom is.
Well, I have a right over my own body.
So do you think that this is going to be changed in any way in the near future, this decision? Is there any way for that to happen?
Oh, I think eventually the new court will be, once there are vacancies, and, this president or the next one, whoever it is, starts appointing others, that they can reverse it. Somebody, it'll be a lawsuit and you can reverse it.
A little bit of a waiting game at this point.
Yeah, because there's nothing we can do. I don't think we should change the court because of a decision we don't like.
Right.
The court is what it is, but it should be changed.
The thing is, if you start changing the court every time you don't like something, then the opposition can change the court every time.
Exactly.
And then you have 75 justices, and it looks more like Congress than the court.
Oh, God.
Could you imagine? All right. Well, thank you for your time, Leslie, as always, and we'll see you for the next episode.
See you for the next one. Thank you so much.